At 63, I thought my mother died. 2 weeks later, my siblings told me I was entitled to nothing. And that was when I stopped being polite. Before I get into it, please like, share, and subscribe. These stories take time to make, and your support keeps them coming. And when the first major betrayal hits, I am going to ask you to leave a comment. Not for drama. For the women who have lived through quiet cruelty, so they know they are not alone. I always knew I was different. Not in the trendy way people call it now. Not quirky. Not mysterious. Just slightly off to the side. Like a painting hung a little too far left. You still see it. But you can tell it was not placed with care. At family dinners, my siblings sat at one end of the table and I was always at the other. I was the chair pulled in late. The one near the hallway. The one that blocked people when they walked past. Nobody ever said, "Move your chair." They did not need to. They had something sharper than rudeness. Polite indifference. Could you pass the salt? Could you grab the plates? Could you hold the door? Not my name. Never my name. It was a talent, really. Making someone feel like furniture. Useful. Replaceable. Easy to overlook. I learned early not to ask why. When I did ask, my mother would smile like I had asked for an extra biscuit. "Oh, honey. Do not start." Or, "You are imagining it." Or the classic, "Stop being so sensitive." By the time I was 63, I had lived a whole life. I had held jobs. I had paid bills. I had survived a marriage that ended with a funeral and a silence that never left the house. And still, some part of me was waiting to feel chosen. Like one day somebody in my own family would look at me and say, "There you are." Then the call came on a Tuesday. It was my sister Elaine. Oldest. Always the first to speak. Always the last to soften. Her voice was sharp. No warmth. No pause. Like she had rehearsed it in a mirror. She passed in her sleep. I stood at my kitchen sink with my hands in soapy water. I remember looking at the bubbles and thinking, that is an odd detail to notice right now. "Oh," I said softly. "That is what you say when you have already mourned someone 10 different times in your head. That is what you say when grief feels familiar, like a coat you have worn too long." Elaine did not ask if I was sitting down. She did not ask if I needed anything. "We are doing the service on Friday. Be there by 10. Then she hung up. I stared at my own reflection in the dark kitchen window. My face looked calm. Almost professional. Like a woman taking notes at someone else's tragedy. 3 days later, we buried her. It was a simple service. Expensive casket. Too many flowers. Too many people who had not visited. People who suddenly remembered how kind she was. People who spoke like they knew her, when half of them probably could not have told you her middle name. I stood by the grave and watched the dirt fall. I did not cry. I did not feel nothing. I felt something worse. I felt late. Like I had arrived at the end of a movie I had not been allowed to watch. Afterwards, we stood in the church car park, 5 siblings in a loose circle. Elaine, Thomas, Ruth, me, and the youngest. The one who never looked anyone in the eye for longer than a second. The one who always stood half a step back like he was ready to run. Elaine cleared her throat. "We will be handling the estate privately." I blinked. Handling? Handling what, exactly? Her jewelry. Her bank accounts. Her home. The parts of her life she had built while the rest of us were told to be grateful for crumbs. I said handling. Elaine did not flinch. She had never flinched a day in her life. "There was no will," she said, "so it is cleaner this way." Cleaner for who, I thought. "Okay," I said, "so what does that mean?" My brother Thomas looked up at the sky like he was checking for rain. "It means there is nothing for you to worry about." I smiled. Polite. Practiced. like a woman who had survived more than one kind of dismissal. "Oh," I said. I was not worried. That was a lie. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Not a sympathy card, not a check-in, not a single line that said, "How are you coping?" A letter from a family lawyer. It was written in that careful tone people use when they are stepping around a mess they do not want on their shoes. It informed me that my name did not appear on any accounts associated with my late mother, and therefore I was not entitled to anything, or any knowledge, or any involvement. Just like that. A life reduced to a legal shrug. That is the first major betrayal, by the way. If you have ever been quietly erased like that, please leave a comment below. Not to fight. Not to argue. Just to say, "Me too," so another woman reading it knows she is not alone. Because it does something to you. Being written out. Not just of money. Of meaning. I sat at my dining table with the letter in front of me. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again out loud. Like if I heard the words in my own voice, they might rearrange into something kinder. They did not. I knew there was money. Not because I was greedy. Because I was awake. My late husband and I had talked about it. We had sat in our kitchen years earlier, and he had said, "Your mother is sitting on a fortune, you know. Property. Investments. Things she pretends do not exist. She is old school. She thinks money is power and silence is manners." And he was right. I had heard things over the years. Little slips. Thomas complaining about taxes. Ruth talking about trusts like she understood them. Elaine casually mentioning a property manager as if that was normal. Millions. Maybe not in cash, but in land and assets and the kind of quiet wealth that stays in families who do not share. And now I was being told there was nothing. Not just nothing for me. Nothing to even discuss. I called Elaine. She did not answer. I called Thomas. Voicemail. I called Ruth. She sighed like I had interrupted her lunch. This again. What again? I said. You were never entitled to anything, she said. There it was. Clean. Sharp. Surgical. Why, I asked? Silence. Then she said, "Do not do this." And she hung up. That was the moment something in me stopped trying to be understood. It is hard to explain what that feels like at 63. At 25, you tell yourself you will build a chosen family. You will find your people. You will not need them. At 63, you have done that. You have built what you can. You have loved who you can. But there is still a raw spot inside you that wants to know why the people who share your blood have always treated you like an inconvenience. And when they steal from you, it is not just money. It is confirmation. So I did what they never expected. I hired a private investigator. His name was Mark. Late 40s, soft voice. Eyes that did not rush you. The kind of man who could sit in silence without making it feel like punishment. He came to my house and sat at my kitchen table. He did not stare at the family photos. He did not ask nosy questions. He listened. "You are looking for what, exactly?" he asked. "Proof," I said. "That I belong." He did not laugh. That alone made my throat tighten. He took notes. Asked for names. Dates. Addresses. Schools. Then he asked for my birth certificate. I gave it to him. He looked at it for a long moment. And there it was. The first flicker of something I could not name. Like surprise. Like concern. "You have a strange gap here," he said. "What gap?" I asked. "Your early records. School. Medical. Even basic things. It is thin." "Thin how?" He exhaled slowly. "Like you do not have much of a paper trail." I forced a laugh. It came out tight. "So what?" I said. I was boring. Mark did not smile. It is unusual, he said. It is like you are a ghost. My irritation rose fast. I did not like being spoken about like a missing person in my own life. Like a dead person, I snapped. No, he said gently. More like someone who was placed. Then covered. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and felt a strange, itchy sense of wrongness crawling under my skin. I kept seeing family photos in my head, or rather the absence of them. There were a few baby pictures. Me in a pram. Me in a crib. A soft blanket. A toy bear. Then nothing. No birthdays. No messy cake faces. No school uniforms. No Christmas mornings. Whenever I had asked as a child, my mother would smile. We were not a picture family, she would say. Funny how the others had albums. Elaine had whole boxes. Ruth had framed school portraits. Thomas had photos of fishing trips and first cars. I had a small handful of baby pictures and then a strange blankness like someone had cut my childhood out with scissors. Mark kept digging. He called me every few days. Dead ends, he said. Gaps, he said. This is not normal, he said. Meanwhile, my siblings grew colder. No returned calls. No invitations. No softening. I could feel them closing ranks. Like a team that had played this game before, so I did something else. I invited them to dinner. At my house. Just to talk, I wrote. For the kids. That did it. They would not miss a chance to look like good people in front of their children. They arrived on a Saturday evening with wine and smiles that did not reach their eyes. Elaine kissed my cheek like we were distant co-workers. Thomas avoided my gaze like eye contact cost him money. Ruth walked into my living room and scanned it like she was checking for hazards. The youngest sat quietly and kept his hands folded. He looked older than I remembered. More tired. Like he had been carrying something heavy for years and nobody had offered to help. Dinner went smoothly. Too smoothly. I served roast chicken. Potatoes. Vegetables. The kind of meal that says, I am not here to fight. They ate. They chatted about their children. They asked me safe questions. How is the garden? How is the house? Are you still going to that church? Not one of them said, I am sorry. Not one of them said, we should have included you. So I poured drinks. Kept them coming. And I asked questions. Casual ones at first. So I said, smiling. Dad used to say there were investments. Properties. Things set aside. Where is it? Elaine's fork paused in midair. Thomas cleared his throat fast. There really was not much left by the time she passed, he said. And we have given the rest to charity. We are all comfortable, you know. It felt right to give back. You did what? I said. Ruth snapped. Why are you obsessing about this? There was no will. There was very little money. I stared at them. Their faces were calm, controlled. Like this was not theft. Like this was a decision made by sensible people. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Then I shrugged. Okay, I said. I believe you. They laughed. Nervous. Too quick. Too relieved. Of course I did not believe a word. Later, after the second bottle of wine, Elaine slipped. It was small. Just a mutter. A phrase that fell out of her mouth before she could catch it. How are we going to keep covering, she said. The room went quiet. Covering. Elaine's eyes widened. Too late. Ruth slammed her glass down. Enough. I leaned back in my chair. Calm. Almost curious. No, I said. I think we are finally getting somewhere. Elaine tried to smile. You misheard me. Did I said. Because I have excellent hearing. And terrible patience. Thomas started talking fast. Something about grief. Something about misunderstanding. I nodded like I was listening. Like I was a polite woman at a polite dinner. But inside, something turned. Not rage. Not hysteria. Clarity. That night after they left, I sat in my living room and listened to the recording on my phone. I had turned it on when Elaine's fork froze. A habit I learned late in life. When people lie to your face, you stop relying on memory. You start relying on evidence. I played it over and over. How are we going to keep covering? Covering what? Covering who? Then, like a flash of lightning in a dark field, I remembered something. Blood. Just a flicker. Red on carpet. Someone shouting my name. My name. Not salt. Not plates. My name. Then nothing. I called my doctor the next morning and said I needed an appointment. Not later. Now. 2 days later, I sat in a small office that smelled like disinfectant and lemon air freshener. The doctor was kind. Careful. He asked questions I did not like. Do you forget words? Do you lose time? Do you ever feel confused about dates? I answered with the confidence of a woman who had survived. I am fine, I said. I am just stressed. He did not argue. He showed me results. He explained it slowly. Early Alzheimer's disease, he said, with vascular involvement. And you have been having delusional episodes. I sat very still. I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny. Because it was insulting. I pay my bills, I said. I cook. I drive. Yes, he said. People can do all of that for a long time. This does not start suddenly. It has been progressing for years. Years. I thought of the gaps. The missing photos. The blank spaces. I thought of the way my siblings spoke to me like I was fragile glass. I thought of Elaine talking about covering something. I left the office with pamphlets in my bag like party favors I had never asked for. At home, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the sunlight on the floor. If my mind was slipping, then why did it feel like everyone else had been slipping away from me on purpose? Because one thing I knew, even in the middle of confusion, was this. They lied to me. About money. About family. About something deeper than either. And they were not going to get away with it. Mark called that evening. I found something, he said. His voice sounded different. Lower. Cautious. What? A report. Old. Sealed. Hard to access. But I got it through a court archive. My fingers tightened around the phone. What is it? A police incident, he said. From decades ago. It involves your family. It involves a child. My mouth went dry. What child? There was a pause. You, he said. I felt the room tilt. What do you mean me? He exhaled. I think, he said, that you were reported missing. For a time. When you were very young. My skin went cold. Missing. I laughed once. It sounded like a bark. That is ridiculous. Mark did not laugh back. It is in the record, he said. A missing child report. Then a later note. Located. Returned. No charges filed. Family requested privacy. I could not breathe properly. And the people who requested privacy were the same people who treated me like an inconvenience at dinner. My siblings. My mother. My whole life suddenly felt like a stage set. Pretty from the front. Hollow behind the walls. The next day I drove to my youngest brother's town. I had avoided him for years. Not because I disliked him. Because my siblings had taught me, without saying it out loud, that he was dangerous. The black sheep. The one they whispered about. The one they sent away when things got too loud. He lived in a small house on a quiet street. No decorations. No welcome mat. No signs of a life anyone would envy. I watched the house for 3 days. Not because I was dramatic. Because I was careful. And because some part of me still wanted to catch my breath before I stepped into whatever truth was waiting behind his door. On the 3rd day I knocked. He opened it and stared at me like he had seen a ghost. His face went pale. "What are you doing here?" he whispered. I smiled. "Hi," I said. "Did you forget I exist?" He did not invite me in. He did not need to. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. "I know," I said. "About the night we argued." His eyes widened. His throat bobbed. "You pushed me," I said. I hit my head. "And they covered it up." He shook his head hard. "It was not like that." "Oh," I said. "Because I have been reconstructing my life. And frankly, it reads like a crime novel." He looked down at his feet. Then back at me. "What do you want?" I tilted my head. "What is my share worth?" He let out a short, nervous laugh. "You think money fixes this?" "No," I said. "But it quiets me. And I am tired of being told to be quiet for free." That landed. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was weighing something. Then he stepped back and opened the door wider. "Come in," he said. Inside, the house was nice, not luxurious but hardly wanting for anything. The kind of neat that comes from living small on purpose. He sat at his kitchen table and rubbed his hands together. "You do not know what you are saying," he said. "I know enough," I said. Elaine said, covering. "There are missing records. There is a police report. And somehow the only person nobody wants me to talk to is you." He swallowed. "They always do this," he said. "They always pick someone to pick up the fallout, so the rest can pretend life is okay." I did not blink. "So tell me," I said. "What happened?" He stared at the table. Then he said, "You were not supposed to remember any of it." My stomach clenched. I leaned forward. "Say it." He spoke slowly. "When you were younger," he said, "you disappeared. For a while. People came. Police. Neighbors. Everybody. Mom was frantic. Dad was furious. Elaine acted like she was running the world at 16. I felt like my body had turned to stone. And then," he continued, "you came back." "Came back from where?" I asked. He flinched. "From a man," he said. "A man who said you were his. A man who had taken you and treated it like a game." My throat tightened. He shook his head. "I do not know his name. I was a kid. But I remember his face. And I remember Mom screaming. Not grief. Rage. Pure rage." I sat back. My mind tried to reject it. My mind tried to wrap it in cotton. But it felt like a key turning. "And then," he said quietly, "they decided we would never speak about it again." "Who decided?" I asked. "Mom," he said. "Mom said it would ruin us. She said people would talk. She said we would be marked." I let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. "So you erased me to protect the family name?" He looked at me with something like pity. "Not you," he said. "The story. They erased the story. But when you erase a story, the person inside it starts to feel unreal too." I stared at him. "So what about the money?" I said. "The estate. The millions." He hesitated. Then he said, "There is money. Not like you think. But yes. And they cut you out because they did not trust what you might do with it." Trust. That word hit me like a slap. "So they cut me out on purpose." He shook his head fast. "Not like that. It wasn't that they didn't trust you. They didn't lock you up. They just did what they always do. They gave in to you as much as they could. And spoke around you to protect you. They handled everything for you. They told themselves it was kindness, but I guess it may have been a form of control." He said. I sat very still. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out calm. And you, I said. What did you get? He glanced away. Enough to keep my mouth shut, he said. I nodded. Then I did something I did not expect. I smiled. Okay, I said. Then here is what we are going to do. He looked up. I am going to give you a chance to choose, I said. You can keep being the family dumpster where they throw all the shame. Or you can help me. Help you do what? He asked. Get my share, I said, and drag the truth into the light so hard it leaves scorch marks. He stared at me. You are not well, he said softly. I laughed. I am not stupid, I said. And there is a difference. He swallowed. What do you want from me? I leaned forward. I want you to transfer what you received, I said. To me. Today. Not because you owe me. Because I need leverage. He scoffed. Leverage on who? On the people who have been treating me like a chair in the hallway for 63 years, I said. He looked torn. His jaw clenched. Then he said something that surprised me. If I do it, he said, will you leave them be? You've got your share then. I tilted my head. They already came for both of us, they just did it quietly. They made you carry the worst parts so they could keep their hands clean. He stared at me. Then he stood, went to a drawer, pulled out paperwork and sat down again. Fine, he said. I will do it. I watched him log into his bank. I watched the numbers. Not millions. But $250,000. Enough to change a life if you are careful. Enough to ruin one if you are cruel. He entered my details and hit transfer. There, he said. Are you satisfied? Not yet, I said. But thank you for finally acting like I exist. His face tightened. You do not get it, he said. This does not end well. I stood. For them, I said. It does not. On the drive home, I felt a strange energy. Not joy. Not giddiness. Control. The kind of control you feel when you have been pushed around your whole life and you finally find your footing. That night, I sent a group message. A simple one. I have recordings. I have evidence. I know you have been covering something. And I know you handled the estate without me. You have 1 week to fix this. Or I will do it publicly. Elaine called within 10 minutes. Her voice was shaking. What are you doing? I kept my tone light. Eating leftovers, I said. Watching television. Thinking about how polite you have been while stealing from me. Beth, she snapped. Don't. It was weird hearing that name. My mother went by Beth. We shared the same name, so I always went by Bethany. Don't what? I said. Don't make you uncomfortable. Because you have been making me invisible for decades. Forgive me if I am not in the mood to protect your peace. Her breath sounded sharp in my ear. There is no money, she said. This is ridiculous. I laughed. Elaine, I said, I am 63. Do not talk to me like I am 12. I know what money looks like. And I know what panic sounds like. You are doing both. She went quiet. Then she said, You are sick. I smiled. Funny, I said. You never worried about my health when you were cutting me out. She hung up. Thomas came next. He showed up at my door 2 days later. No warning. No smile. No charm. He looked like a man who had rehearsed guilt in the car but could not get it to sit on his face properly. Beth, he said. Please. We can talk. We have been talking, I said. You just do not like the direction now. He stepped inside and glanced at my living room like it might have microphones in the curtains. I sat down and folded my hands. He cleared his throat. You are making a mistake, he said. You do not understand the legal side. Oh, I said. I understand a simple thing. There was an estate. You handled it privately. And I was told to worry about nothing. That is not law. That is bullying. He rubbed his forehead. Elaine thought it was best, he said. Elaine always thinks she is best, I said. That does not make her right. He looked at me, and for a moment I saw something like fear. What do you want? He asked. I kept my voice calm. I want my share, I said. All of it. And I want it documented. Because I am done being told stories. He exhaled. And if we don't give it? I smiled. Then the recording goes to your children, I said. And your church friends. And your neighbors. And anyone who has ever called our family respectable. His face went white. That is cruel, he whispered. No, I said. Cruel is cutting someone out of their own mother's life and calling it clean. He stared at me like he did not recognize me. And that is when I realized something. They liked me best when I was small. When I was grateful. When I was confused. A week later the money came. Not in one neat payment. In pieces. Like they were trying to soften the impact. Elaine sent hers with a note. For peace. Please stop. We love you. Ruth sent hers with nothing at all. Just a transfer. Cold. Efficient? Thomas sent his with a message that said, I hope you are happy, love you. I was not happy. I certainly didn't feel loved. I was steady. There is a difference. And here is the part I need you to hear. For a brief moment, I felt powerful. Complete. Like I had finally won. Then the phone rang. It was my eldest nephew. His voice was careful. Kind. The kind of kindness that makes you lean in because it feels rare. Can we talk? He asked. Of course, I said. You are the only one in this family who knows how to speak like a human being. He did not laugh. I am worried, he said. About how everyone is handling this. And I think something is wrong. With you. With all of this. I stiffened. I am fine, I said. He paused. Please, he said. Just meet me. Somewhere quiet. I want to show you something. It is important. Part of me hesitated. But another part of me felt relieved. Because even in the middle of my anger there was still that old hunger. To be seen. So I agreed. He drove me out to a cabin. It belonged to my late husband. A place we used to visit when life was loud. It sat tucked into trees with a small porch and a smell of pine and old wood. The air was cold. There was wood smoke. There was no cell signal. The moment we arrived, my stomach tightened. I did not like the silence. He carried a bag inside. Then he locked the door behind us. The click sounded too final. My body went still. Why did you lock it? I asked. He turned to me. Because you would leave, he said. And you need to hear this. I laughed once. Sharp. You do not get to trap me in a cabin, I said. I am not a child. His eyes were wet. I know, he said quietly. That is the problem. He pulled out a folder. Thick, heavy. Like it had been waiting for years. I crossed my arms. If this is some family intervention, I said, save it. I have had enough of people deciding what is best for me. He swallowed. I know the truth, he said. I tilted my head. Join the club, I said. He flinched. You are not my aunt, he said. The words landed wrong. Like someone stepping on a stair that is not there. Excuse me, I said. He took a breath. You are my grandmother. I stared at him. No, I said. That is not funny. He shook his head fast. I am not joking, he said. And I am not trying to hurt you. I am trying to save you from what you just did. My pulse roared in my ears. What I just did, I repeated. He opened the folder and laid documents on the table. Birth certificates. Old school records. Medical reports. A marriage certificate. Then something I did not understand at first. A death certificate? I stared at the name. Then I stared again. My stomach turned. No, I whispered. He slid another paper forward. A photograph. A woman with my eyes. My mouth. My expression. Older than the version in my head. But unmistakable. My daughter. Dead. Months ago. I felt the room tilt. My hands went numb. That is not possible, I said. My mother just died. He shook his head slowly. No, he said. Your mother has been gone for years. You are my mother's mother. My throat opened and a sound came out that did not feel like mine. I screamed. Denied. Raged. My body shook with fury because fury was easier than grief. You are lying, I said. You are all lying. This is a trick. Elaine put you up to this. This is how you do it. You corner me. You rewrite me. You make me feel crazy so you can keep the money. He did not shout back. He waited. He let my anger burn itself out. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle. Medication with my name on it. He set it on the table like it was sacred. Please, if you would just take it, everything will become clear. Just take it, please, he pleaded. I stared at the bottle. My hands trembled. I wanted to throw it. I wanted to spit. I wanted to run. But somewhere beneath all that, there was a quiet whisper. What if he is telling the truth? My name is on the bottle after all. The doctor did say, what if my anger has been aimed at the wrong target? I picked up the bottle. My fingers felt clumsy. I took the pill with a sip of water. Then I sat very still. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Time did strange things in that cabin. The air felt heavy. The silence felt like it was pressing on my chest. And then clarity came. Not relief, clarity. It hit like a curtain being yanked open. Images surfaced. Not like dreams. Like memories finally allowed to breathe. My daughter's face.
Rhea.
Adult. Laughing in my kitchen. Her voice. Her hands. Then another image. Stairs. A fight. A shove. A sickening thud. Blood on carpet. The blood was not mine. It was hers. I pressed my palm to my mouth. I did this, I whispered. He stepped closer fast. No, he said. Your mind protected you. You did not do this. You could not survive it, so your brain built a shelter. It turned your daughter into your mother. It put the grief somewhere you could hold without drowning. I stared at the papers on the table. The death certificate blurred. My whole body felt cold. Then I remembered something else. The reason my siblings had looked at me like a bomb. Not because I was greedy. Because I was unpredictable. Because I was sick. Because I was their mother. And suddenly, the way Elaine said Beth made sense. Because they had been dealing with this for years while I insisted I was fine. And suddenly the money made sense. Not millions. Not treasure. Just enough to care for me. Enough to fund a life that needed support. Enough that they had decided, in their selfish fear, to keep control rather than share responsibility. I thought of Elaine's voice. Cleaner this way. Cleaner meant they did not want me involved. Not because they hated me. Because I made them face something they did not want to admit. That their family was broken. That their mother was slipping. That their sister was dead. And that none of it was clean. I sat down slowly, like my bones had aged 20 years in one afternoon. My nephew sat across from me. I am sorry, he said. I know you thought you were fighting them. But they cannot afford what they just paid you. Not without tearing their lives apart. I think they did it anyway because they were scared of what you would do next. And I was scared too. Not of you. Of what you might do to yourself. Or to them. Or to the truth. I stared at him. I thought I was so clever, I said. You were brave, he said. But bravery with the wrong story becomes a weapon. My throat tightened. I hurt them, I whispered. He nodded. And they hurt you, he said. For years. They shut you out. They spoke around you. They treated you like a problem to manage. That is still wrong. Even if they were scared, I closed my eyes. All that fury. All that planning. All that satisfaction. And underneath it, a grief so huge my mind had built a whole other world to avoid it. When I returned home the next day, my house felt unfamiliar. Like I had lived there as someone else. I sat at my computer and opened my bank account. The transfers sat there like stones. Each one a piece of my revenge. I wired the money back. All of it. To Elaine. To Thomas. To Ruth. To the youngest. I included a message. I am sorry. I remember now. They did not understand. They replied with confusion. With relief. With suspicion. Elaine wrote, "What are you doing?" Thomas wrote, "Thank you." Ruth wrote, "You need help." The youngest wrote nothing at all. I did not argue. I did not explain. I did not have the energy. I just sat in the quiet and mourned the daughter I had buried twice. Once with a funeral. Once with a delusion. Sometimes I still feel angry. Sometimes I still feel clever. But mostly I feel calm. Chillingly calm. And empty. Because the truth does not always free you. Sometimes it just leaves you alone with what is left. And what is left is silence. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.